Welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff. I am here with our special guest, special co-host. You guys know him from the On the Chain community, from the chat, JV, the only, JV the great.
What's up, you
What
guys?
is going on, man? It's great
Hey,
to have you here. Really looking forward to bringing you on. You add so much to every conversation. Always bringing in a lot of great things, and also what you post up on Twitter. So, we want to dig in today. Want to get into the hearing that took place in Congress today in front of the Financial Services Committee. We'll get into that part of it. Brian Brookes had some really good commentary. We'll try to chop it up. The whole hearing's like 5 hours. So unless you're going to
right.
be here for the next 5 hours plus, it's probably not going to happen. But we're going to talk
Yeah,
about that, probably a lot more. So Jay, if you're ready, I'm ready, and we're going to kick this thing off. Ready
let's
to do
do it.
this? Let's go.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to On the Chain.
All right, man. Welcome back, man. It's great to have you here. Outstanding.
Glad to be back, man. I got a word from a little birdie, man, that you sent Jeff to Gary Gensler's office with a box of those few boxes of clarity.
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah.
so I heard
That-
Gary when he opened the door, man, he, he kind of hit the return to sender and kind of denied him. So,
I wonder what was coming back. UPS has been busy.
oh yeah.
That's really funny though. No, actually, yeah. So man, so it's awesome to have you here. A lot of things happened today. I want to go through. We'll kind of chop up a little bit into some of the video. We have CNBC actually posted up on YouTube, so we'll be able to chop that up a little bit. But before we get into that, just some observation from your perspective. Like, what was your take on the hearing today?
Well, I watched the whole thing, man, from all the way from 10 o'clock close to I think it ended around like 3 o'clock, 3:30, somewhere around there. But I think it was a great step forward. Didn't expect what I saw from Congress. When I say that, I think they all came very well prepared and they did their homework on crypto. So it they came with some key points, some key questions for the CEOs to kind of really grasp the understanding behind crypto and stable coins as well. So I think it was a great hearing, man, and a positive outlook on crypto from the government perspective. And also it kind of goes against what Gary has been saying, Gary Gensler. Um, and the hearing kind of made me think like Gary has really been probably behind the scenes, kind of giving them this one-sided story. But it was good for Congress to get those CEOs in there to get their side as well. So now they have both sides to look at, and more than likely, they probably see Gary as kind of just against it,
Right,
you know.
Gary the
Yeah,
gangster.
but Gary, the mobster, man.
If you were to kind of single out any one person, what do you think like the major highlight was?
Um, I think one of the major highlights for the XRP community was when Brian Brooks said that he brought up XRP, and he said he pretty much said, "Hey, if you're gonna call it a security, then you list it on the U.S. exchanges. Let them in." So that was one of the standout points for me. But like I said, the whole thing, it seemed like they wanted the perspective of the crypto space, and like I said, everything we've been hearing from Gary seems like it's just been him trying to kill the space. So
Yeah, which is kind of crazy too, because I know Gasparino, he was tweeting some stuff out yesterday, and that's one of the references that I had. I had responded to his tweet, and I was saying that follow the money trail,
hmm
and what exactly, like, so you're watching this, right? You're watching this hearing, and you have the congressional representatives seem to be getting a little bit more comfortable with this notion, with this idea of digital asset. Obviously, Gary Gensler is on the opposite, and you brought up that there were a couple other kind of outspoken individuals against crypto, like Brad Sherman, the Shermanator,
yeah,
and maybe a couple others. I still find it so odd, that Gary Gensler is so anti cryptocurrency. Just like I find it odd that Brad Sherman is so like vehemently just anti cryptocurrency. It's like,
Yeah.
it's almost like an irrational, mindset to be that against it for no other reason. But what are your thoughts on that? Because here now you have Congress coming up in favor. Any ideas, like just, opinion, just throwing it out there. Where's Gary Gensler coming from on all this negativity?
I think he's coming from, I think he's standing with his Wall Street buddies, to be honest with you. I think he has his own agenda along with his Wall Street buddies. I don't think he has the interest of the American investors, the retail investors. I really don't. And I really think, I think I made a tweet about it, but I really think Gary um, took that professor role at MIT as kind of like a cover up, you can say, just to make it seem like before he got into that position that he was pro innovation and pro crypto. But once he got that position, his true colors really showed.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, but I'm wondering how much further, how deep it really goes. I mean,
Yeah.
if there's this whole space, and he came from Wall Street,
Hmm.
and as the head and chair of the CFTC, he was propping up a certain political concept. And now, if you look at decentralization, it obviously has far-reaching, meaning. And there was one article I found, and it was really referencing Bitcoin.
Hmm.
Maybe we'll get into it in a little bit, but it's almost referencing the fact that it's Bitcoin that is, and I say, if it's not just Bitcoin, but it's got to be, the whole digital asset space represents and signifies freedom. And the other side of the coin, which is the fiat and the old way of doing things, put a lot of the power and the money plays into the hands of a few people that really
Yeah.
knew and understood how to orchestrate it. And
That's
a
right.
lot of it happens right here. When we're looking, I haven't pulled it up yet, but when we look at the halls of Congress, a
Mhm.
lot of the big power moves happen over there.
Right. I agree. I agree. Especially with that centralized aspect of it. Like you said, it's only a few people that control these legacy systems. When you disrupt that, it's like you're raising war on them. But I don't think this innovation slows down for them. They ought to get aboard and partner up with these crypto spaces and crypto companies, man.
That's it. Exactly. I just want to give a quick shout out to Dwayne Dibley. Said, morning, guys from the UK. My first live session with On the Chain. Welcome to On the Chain. Glad to have you on. It's really awesome to see you here. Let me see here. Got the once, twice, 3 times a day spam call. Come on.
Man, you're lucky. I get them. I can't keep count, man. If you only get them 2 or 3 times, you're doing good.
So, all right. So let's see. What do we got here? All right. So we're going through this. I'm looking at, some of the commentary. Let's dig into this, to the hearing. Let's look at some of it. I'm going to start right from the beginning, so we can hear Maxine Waters opening. I see a lot of people, that are commenting, Brian Brookes is the Messiah. He's giving us the sign.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. So Dwayne is tuning in from the UK, right? So
Mhm.
we have people that tune in here from all over the world. And digital asset, cryptocurrency is something that has impacted people on such a wide scale. And that's why, I find it interesting that the old way of doing things, the brick and mortars, they want to keep things more or less oppressed. And because they're making money this way. So if you follow the money trail, why would you want to disrupt your gravy train?
Right.
Purposely disrupt it. And then there's some people that are passionate about the freedom, and they know that we have to find this mechanism of democratizing money. We can't just keep it so centralized to the point where it becomes a major, massive power play to dominate over people's lives,
Exactly.
and opening up really access, on such a broad scale. And it's interesting because I look at places, if you look around the world, and we've referenced this before, but you go to different parts of the world. It can be in Asia, it can be in Africa, it could be Latin America. But you have many people in these areas that are relatively, they use the term unbanked, but at the end of the day, they're not part of the general economy. They're not in the main street economy.
Right.
And this goes, I don't know how many weeks ago, but Chip and I played a video from someone in Kenya that was using digital asset to pay vendors and
Mm-hmm.
to collect money from customers, retail, and he was a farmer. And I
Mm-hmm.
looked at that and I thought about it from that perspective. If you can think about it from a farmer's perspective in some of these developing countries, or even like, from the coffee bean industry. Because
Right.
if you get into like the coffee bean industry, coffee beans, the majority of them are grown by small farmers.
Mm-hmm.
And those small farmers, their circle of influence is so narrow because the majority of them are living for that one season to harvest coffee, the coffee bean. They get paid in fiat, and that's the rest of their life might, or the rest of the seasons might be spent going overseas. Someone in the family might go overseas to work.
Right.
But so that's where cryptocurrency could have such a positive impact, where that individual then joins, or that family then joins the bigger economy, where now they can move cryptocurrency and they can start collecting money from retail, from wholesale, all over the world. It
Right.
changes the dynamics of how things function. And
Right.
to me, that's what's exciting. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, and I agree, man. I mean, crypto has a lot of aspects to it. I mean, you have the area for the investors, for those that want to do speculative investing. You have the benefits for the companies that want to utilize the blockchain. Uh, and you also have, like you said, the benefits it gives to those that are underbanked. So all
Yeah.
around, it's just a great innovation that I don't see why, if the United States really stood on what we've known the United States to stand on, I don't see why they wouldn't embrace this type of technology.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, let's pull this up here. Let's see what we got. All right, so we got an empty room. No, here we go. So I think this starts off right around the point where Maxine Waters does the introduction. So let's see what we got here. Let's see, 6:42. It's a little bit in there. Hang on. Let's see. There we go.
Digital assets. Earlier this year, I created a digital assets working group of Democratic members to meet with leading regulators, advocates, and other experts on how these novel products and services are reshaping our financial system. This hearing, subsequent hearings on this topic will help this committee consider how to support responsible innovation that protects consumers and investors, safeguards our financial system from systemic risk, promotes financial inclusion, addresses environmental contents, as well as to consider a potential central bank digital currency. We have also held several subcommittee and task force hearings earlier this year to better understand the landscape of this industry. At today's hearing, which I worked with a ranking member, McHenry, to organize, I look forward to engaging directly with this panel of cryptocurrency CEOs whose companies issue stablecoins and provide an exchange to buy and sell digital assets, to understand where they think their products, services, and technologies are heading. Americans are increasingly making financial decisions using digital assets every day. Even some pension funds are beginning to invest in cryptocurrencies on behalf of retirees. Despite the track record of volatility of cryptocurrencies as investments, the pandemic has also continued to contribute to working families looking for alternatives to rebuild their nest egg by investing in cryptocurrency.
All right. So, man, I'm watching this intro, and it's kind of a refreshing change from the lack of focus, or lack of attention that she's provided over a period of time.
Yeah.
But here's the question that I have, and I'll get your feedback as well. I'm looking at it. I look at her statement, seem very positive. It's
Hmm.
almost like, I'm looking at her. It's almost like this was a prepared statement. Something was written for her.
Yeah.
And I don't know that, she's 100. I don't know. I mean, just from the past, she's hasn't really been involved or really cared about this, but now she seems like she actually cares about it.
Right.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, just to piggyback on what you just said, if it is a written statement, um, it's still bullish for crypto because they're not going to put out anything that they're not willing to support. So I still see this as a positive for the space, even if it is pre-written and she's just reading off of it. She
Yeah,
had to give the okay to say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put this out.
it's
So
amazing. And then she worked with McHenry to put this together.
exactly.
McHenry's a huge advocate for cryptocurrency,
Yep.
uh, and she's now gotten to this point where she's really, put it this is interesting comment from John Doe. She's powerful enough to raise a fuss if she didn't want to read it.
That's right.
So
Exactly
that's
what I was
another
saying.
point.
Yep.
Yeah. So Nick is saying this is all scripted. It's part of the game. Like they put you on the defense, they put you on the offense. You're kind of all over the map. We don't know
Yeah.
where they are. Everyone's getting angry at everyone else, and here they are, kind of allowing it to keep unfolding.
Yeah. I mean, if it is scripted, yeah, it's part of the movie that we want to see. It's not something that's against crypto. Like Nick just said, not Nick, but the previous comment just
Yeah,
said.
John. Yeah, John
Yeah.
Doe.
I mean, if she's powerful enough to raise a fuss if it's something she don't want to read. So
Yeah,
it
and she's referencing stablecoin as well as other cryptocurrency. She's talking
right.
about innovation. She's talking
Hmm.
about financial inclusion. She was
Exactly.
talking about a lot of key buzzwords that you
Hmm.
could take financial inclusion in a different direction, and you could put a different spin on it. However, financial inclusion is critical,
That's right.
for many different people. And she's also talking about rebuilding somebody's nest egg.
Hmm.
And if you're able to utilize cryptocurrency for financial inclusion, so you're not giving handouts, a lot of times they use financial inclusion as a mechanism for providing continued assistance and welfare, on
Right.
an ongoing basis without any end in sight. But in this scenario, the financial inclusion is what we were talking about early on, and it exists. It exists to a major extent here in the United States. If there's a lot of check cashing stores all over the place,
Oh yeah.
and a lot of people will pay 20 to 30% on the dollar to use a check cashing store
Yeah.
to get cash because they don't have a bank. And so a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck, but I can't. It's unconscionable to think that but many of these communities where the check cashing stores are, there are no
Hmm.
banks.
Right.
Similar to many of the communities, they don't have actually. There's a lack of actual grocery stores. Which is mind-boggling. But then
Hmm.
if you go to like a community like in Detroit, you have a
Hmm.
lot of party stores.
Hmm.
And the party stores have some food, they sell lottery tickets, they sell
Yeah.
they sell cigarettes by the individual, and then they obviously sell alcohol, but
So it's like
and
a little
they
convenience store.
exactly, and then they cash checks.
Mm.
The same thing, and so people come in and have their checks cashed, and it's a vicious cycle. And if you're in that vicious cycle, imagine you're spending 20% of your paycheck to cash the check when that 20% could be money that you invested in something. So imagine now if you're able to become more, invested in something like digital asset, cryptocurrencies, and put a
Right.
little bit of money away, all the
Right.
time. So yeah.
I
All
mean,
right.
not only for the investors, I mean,
Yeah.
even for the people that aren't investing, that are just barely making it, that extra 20, $30 can be used on more food or gas in the tank or anything. Go towards a bill. So,
Yeah. Yep. All right. All right. Let's play this again. Hang on. Let's see. I accidentally rewinded. Let's see.
Are increasingly making financial decisions using digital assets every day. Even some pension funds are beginning to invest in cryptocurrencies on behalf of retirees, despite the track record of volatility of cryptocurrencies as investments. The pandemic has also continued to contribute to working families looking for alternatives to rebuild their nest egg by investing in cryptocurrency. The rapid growth of this industry has also become more visible with celebrity endorsements and ATMs that exchange cash for cryptocurrency. However, several questions remain as to how traditional rules apply and whether regulators have sufficient authority to protect investors and consumers while maintaining market integrity and encouraging innovation. Currently, cryptocurrency markets have no overarching or centralized regulatory framework, leaving investments in the digital aspect space vulnerable to fraud, manipulation, and abuse. Some cryptocurrency market exchanges and stablecoin issuers have obtained state money transmitter and sale of checks licenses from multiple states, and at least 3 cryptocurrency companies have obtained conditional approval for national trust bank charters from the Office of the Controller of the Currency. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve is conducting research on central bank digital currencies, and other federal agencies like the FDIC and NCUA have announced.
I find it's so interesting. I'm looking at some of the feedback here. Is another one, Lisa saying it's not even her own words, you know. And it's Chip is saying weird. I don't have any questions, Auntie Maxine. It's like everything she's saying. I'm kind of along that line. The more I hear about it, I think it's almost like, you know, it's spot on. Everything that she's reading. I mean, it's just like, how can you disagree with this? You know, Chip is saying, what is the over under Auntie Maxine knows what she's reading. Man, he keeps going on and on. It's such a departure from her regular statements. All right, let's forward on because we're gonna get more kind of rah-rah stuff. Let's go here. Let's see. Who's this? Let's see.
It says,
We're moving
McHenry,
fast.
Patrick McHenry.
Entrepreneurs and innovators are building.
Evolve your business
wonderful.
with 4 times membership rewards points.
All right. Great. We got an ad. Let's got a couple ads. All right, let me take that down. All right. So while that's going through the ads, oh, there we go. Now we're back. Here we go. Hang on.
Firms like the ones before us are the on-ramp for many Americans to participate in the digital asset.
All right, this one's kind of hard to watch because we can't really see him and he's sitting behind somebody. Let's there was one, let me see. Oh, here we go. Let's see, get to him. Oh, there we go. Let's see if we can get something here.
A part of the record. You will have 5 minutes to summarize your testimony. You should be able to see a timer that will indicate how much time you have left. I would ask you to be mindful of the timer and quickly wrap up your testimony. A part of the record. You will have 5.
All right, let's just get to it.
Today.
Here we go.
My name is Jeremy Allaire, and I'm the co-founder, chairman, and CEO of Circle Internet Financial, a now 8-year-old company that has operated at the cutting edge of the digital assets market and digital currency technology innovation. Today, we're at a pivotal moment in the development of the next major infrastructure layer of the internet, extending from an internet of data, content, and communications to an internet of value exchange and economic coordination. In a world where money becomes a core feature of the internet, the United States should be aggressively promoting the use of the dollar as the primary currency of the internet and leverage that as a source of national economic competitiveness. Circle's mission is to raise global economic prosperity through the frictionless exchange of financial value, creating a world where financial inclusion, responsible financial services innovation, and protecting the integrity of the global financial system are not conflicting objectives.
Yeah, I find that interesting. You know, so again, it's interesting that Maxine Waters opened with certain points, and you know, he's already hitting on some of those key points that she addressed. It seems like she was extremely well prepared.
Oh yeah.
Going in, or like we said, somebody wrote her statements. What do you think about so far with these kind of this opening idea?
I think it's a great starting point. I think it's kind of opening them up to what they've come here to really discuss. And I think Jeremy did a great job of really breaking down the USDC, the stable coins. So I think it kind of got rid of some of those concerns from the Congress end. But Jeremy, Brian Brookes, and the Coinbase representative, they were the standouts.
All right, so let's see if we can fast forward here to Sam. Let's see. Here we go.
My background first. I grew up in Stanford, California.
Okay, let's fast forward. Let's go. These are all introductions. Oh, here, let's see.
Now, what wasn't really discussed and really brought attention to was crypto itself. I think if they would have had someone like a Brad Garlinghouse, he would have been able to break down the crypto asset and how it complements something like a stable coin. I don't think any one of the CEOs kind of broke down the true benefits of cryptocurrencies. Now they made good points on stable coins and current regulations, but I don't think anyone really hit on crypto assets themselves.
That's an interesting point, because there's so much talk right now about stable coins, and even Japan is considering somehow, being a little bit more restrictive on the stable coin. They see it as a direct competitor with the fiat. And there's actually some good statement later on. I'll find the statement where I think he really nailed it. Let's see what Brookes has to say in his opening.
I am CEO of Bitfury Group, a company that provides a suite of infrastructure products and services that support various aspects of the cryptocurrency ecosystem, an ecosystem many of us today refer to as Web3, since crypto assets generally represent either the rewards paid to participants for maintaining a particular decentralized network or an app that operates on such a network. Since 2011, Bitfury has designed and produced 8 successive generations of ASIC chips and related equipment for conducting transaction validation activity on the Bitcoin blockchain, a process known informally as Bitcoin mining. Along the way, Bitfury developed a series of adjacent businesses to make crypto assets safe, sustainable, and useful. Our various businesses include LiquidStack, one of the world's largest immersion cooling systems, focused on reducing the energy used in Bitcoin mining and other high-performance data centers by as much as 90%. Crystal, a blockchain analytics company that provides transaction monitoring and related compliance tools to more than 150 law enforcement agencies, crypto exchanges, and financial services companies in Europe, Asia, and North America. Allaire, a producer of cutting-edge artificial intelligence ASIC chips, and others. I believe the committee's topic today requires an understanding of 3 important threshold issues. First, a national policy agenda that takes crypto compliance seriously should assess whether it makes more sense to continue to keep crypto activities largely out of the regulated financial system, or whether it makes more sense to bring them inside the system precisely so that they can be supervised and operated with appropriate levels of risk management. For example, is it consistent to take the position that only banks should be allowed to issue stablecoins, but then fail to grant bank charters to the largest issuers of stablecoins? That would, after all, bring stablecoin activity within the ambit of an existing national bank supervision system with which we're all familiar. Or does it make sense to bring enforcement actions challenging certain crypto assets as unregistered securities, but then fail to allow those assets to be registered and trade on a national securities exchange?
I think that's, a point that you had brought up when we were talking, earlier. Man, I see that as a massive point, and he's obviously at that moment, I believe he's referencing Ripple and he's referencing XRP, spot on to that point, because there is enforcement action that's really aggressive against them, claiming they're an unregistered security. Yet, if we go back, we look at how McHenry and Emmer had different questions for Gary Genslered during another hearing. And it was one of them that was really calling him out on some of those statements. What happens when are you going to allow them on the stock exchange? Where can they go? Where can they list?
Yeah, I remember that. That was, I think it was Tom Emmer that kind of called him out and gave him, I think he gave him like a certain questions and asked him, his feedback on it and what would happen if this happened, what would happen if, the SEC sued this company and tanked the crypto asset. So yeah, it was spot on. And he's just getting started, Jeff. He made plenty of good points. So he's just getting warmed up.
And that's already hitting you. It's like a home run.
Yeah.
right off,
Exactly.
right off the
Exactly.
first one.
Yep.
Let's see. All right.
subject to supervision by FINRA and the SEC. Second, Americans deserve to know what our national policy is for a decentralized Web3 powered by crypto assets. Treating crypto as a single unitary activity whose main feature is a need for financial regulation would be like treating the original internet in the 1990s as primarily a tax policy issue. We didn't do that then. What we had in the 1990s with respect to Web 1 that we lack today with respect to crypto is a comprehensive national policy predicated first on the notion of do no harm to the emerging network. Today, instead of focusing only on micro questions, such as whether a particular token is a security or whether a particular exchange-traded fund may be offered, it would be worthwhile for the elected branches of government to grapple with the bigger questions, such as, do we believe a user-controlled decentralized internet is better than an internet largely controlled by 5 big companies? Do we believe that the financial services sector is any less subject to network effects than information and commerce were in earlier iterations of the internet? Do we trust big banks more or open source software more as a tool for maintaining ledgers of account and allocating credit and capital? Can we recognize the difference between crypto projects failing for lack of demand, just as many publicly traded companies fail, and the difference between individual crypto projects actually being scams unworthy of being presented to the fair but sometimes harsh judgment of markets? Third, crypto policy should take into account not only any new risks introduced into the system, but also the risk in the present system that are solved by decentralization. Having issued almost $1 billion in civil money penalties against banks and bank executives during my tenure leading the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, it is clear to me that the present financial system has plenty of examples of risks and costs and safety and soundness problems that are being addressed in the current system. Shouldn't we take seriously the possibility that algorithms and open source software that take a measure of human error, greed, negligence, fraud, and bias out of the system might actually make the system better on net, even if there are some new risks being presented that need to be understood and regulated? Apart from those 3 overarching considerations, I'd like to very quickly make 2 points specific to my current perspective on the crypto economy. One relates to the effect of US crypto regulation on American competitiveness in both the technology and capital market sectors. There are a number of examples of US regulatory decisions that have driven legitimate activity offshore.
Man, he's making some really, really solid points here. I mean, it's, as we're listening to this, it's amazing because he's talking about the existing financial systems inherent with risk, inherent with all sorts of issues.
Mm-hmm.
And, potential, obviously crypto has some inherent risk, but there's also technologies there and ways that it's orchestrated that also bring a fix to the system.
Yeah. And I think with the crypto space having Brian Brookes on his side, that's another thing that kind of eases the concerns for Congress as well. With Brian Brookes serving his role on the government side, and they recognize him and they know his work and they trust him. Now he's on the crypto side and pleading his case. I think that kind of eases the nerves and the concerns of government as well, especially in this hearing. So
yeah, man, this is really exciting to, as you listen through it. You're right. I mean, to have him as a proponent, having someone that is actually doing something positive here. Let's see. I'm going to try to fast forward. There's a lot of other commentary here. Oh, here we go. Here's let's see, right about here. It's McHenry. Go a little past McHenry. Oh, another ad. All right, let's pull it down. All right, let's wait for it to cycle. 5 seconds. Then we'll put it back up. There we go.
Creates Bitcoin. The Bitcoin is the reward I receive for doing the work to keep the network operational, and that allows me to own a piece of the Bitcoin blockchain. Or take Ethereum, which is easier to understand. The Ether token represents an ownership stake in the network, but on top of that network are all kinds of apps that get built on the network, much like the apps on your phone depend on the underlying network existing that lets the phone operate. And so people will make judgments about which network is likely to win, and they will invest in the tokens in that network much the same way you might invest in Google stock because you think Google is going to scale access to the original internet. The difference being here, you can vote on what happens in the future of a proof of stake network, for example. You can
That's
get
good.
rewarded through a proof of work token for maintaining a ledger on something like Bitcoin. But the real message here is that what happens on the decentralized internet is decided by the investors, versus what happens on the main internet is decided by Twitter, Facebook, Google, and a small number of other companies.
Okay, so
He
Man,
breaks that down perfectly, man, in layman's terms for them to understand. And like I said, he's just getting started, man. He made plenty of great points throughout the whole hearing, you know, in
yeah,
ways that they can understand easily.
I think that's the key point too, is that
Mhm.
we got to get them to understand it, because if they don't,
Exactly.
if they can't comprehend it, and like you said, in kind of layman terms, let me break the.
Mhm.
Here's an easy way to understand Ethereum. Here's
Right,
an
exactly.
easy way to understand Bitcoin, and that, I think, one of the biggest confusions across the board, as you hear even novices talking about the crypto space, they refer to it almost as though they're referring to it as a stock.
Yep.
And it's interesting. I was having a conversation with someone, and they said, well, we're talking about the crypto space. And he said, well, when Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all these others, it was eventually some will start taking over others, and,
Right.
kind of like a buyout. I'm like, well, it doesn't really work that way. there isn't a Bitcoin buyout of Ethereum. It's
Right.
Bitcoin exists, Ethereum exists, XRP exists. There's some companies out there that might utilize the asset, or, have different projects going that have assets that might be acquired, but then
Mhm.
their token is still out there.
Right.
It's
That's right.
and so there's a lot of orchestration here. Man, this is really good. This is really good stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Like I said, Jeff, it's a big positive, moving forward, especially for regulations. And I think this is the initial step to kind of get the regulators prepared for what's to come. Like I said, they all had comments about Gensler and how they feel he's kind of regulating the space now. And they kind
yeah.
of put it out there like, hey, we don't think you're doing right by this asset class.
That's a great outcome, so if you've got Congress, and here's what's interesting. So one of the things that Gensler had said in the beginning, they asked
Hmm.
him, a certain question about what he would do, and he said that it's up to Congress.
Hmm.
Congress is responsible for passing the law, and then what we find out is that when Congress sits on their hands, Gensler sees that as a green light, or at least a yellow light, to
Yeah.
just start orchestrating his own outcome
Yeah.
from all of this, right? And now Congress is finally getting getting the idea that it's like, finally,
Yeah.
finally, it's time.
Yeah.
It's time to do what they got to do. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's
Yeah.
man.
I mean, I'm gonna throw an idea out there on Gensler's benefit on his behalf. What if he's, like you said, he initially said that it's ultimately Congress's job to really write the framework. So what if he's doing the things that he's doing intentionally, just so they can hurry up and act?
And that's interesting too. I mean, that's a distinct possibility. Is he going to put himself out there and do all of these things in order for Congress to finally act, or did he? Yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, that's there's all sorts of games that are being played and
Yeah.
orchestrated. Uh, or does he say, hey, the fact that they haven't, and now's the time for him to really do something, probably
Hmm.
knowing that he has a window of opportunity. It wasn't Gensler that opened up the suit against Ripple. It was, under Jay Clayton. But now Gensler is the one that has to run it.
Yeah,
he's,
but it could
he's
have
in charge.
Gensler could have been a mastermind mind behind it, because he met with Clayton right before they filed the lawsuit. So Gensler could have gave word like, "Hey, go ahead and sue him, and I'll carry it when I get through the door. I'll finish it off."
That's a great point.
So
That's a
Gary could be the
point I never,
mastermind.
that that's a great point. I never, I haven't really thought about it from that perspective, but you know what? They did meet He was on his way out. He
Mhm.
has an idea of who's coming in. They probably know behind the scenes who's orchestrating,
Oh yeah.
and who's going to get it, or be more than likely to get it. So that's an interesting it's an interesting theory because they get together on it. They both, when they spoke to each other,
Mhm.
in that they were, Clayton was supposedly interviewing Gensler. But I mean, that's kind of nonsense. But they were
Right.
both
Yeah.
almost exactly on the same page. It was
Oh yeah.
almost, 100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, I find that really, it's very plausible. It's like, all right, let's see. Trying to find somebody different here. Let's see.
Volatility. We've been operating for a number of years with billions of dollars of open interest. We've never had customer losses, clawbacks, or anything like that, even going through periods of large movements in both directions. We store collateral from our users in a way which is not always done in the traditional financial ecosystem to backstop positions. And the last thing that I'll say is if you look at what precipitated some of the
That's a great point. I like that. So he's, collecting collateral for people that are borrowing, like you said, to backstop position, especially if they're, going to be trading, option trading, or whatever else, they might be doing on the platform. But here's what's interesting. You'd mentioned that they could have brought Brad Garlinghouse here. Obviously, there's probably a conflict of interest somehow. Being that Ripple's going through the lawsuit,
Right.
but FTX is currently registered outside of the U.S. It's not
Mm.
it's not a U.S. registered company.
Mhm.
So it's interesting that here he is, obviously concerned about the future regulation of crypto. Obviously, FTX is huge. Obviously,
Mhm.
FTX is buying up huge naming rights around the
Mhm.
country. But for him to be sitting front and center as a non-US based company, I find that to be very, very interesting. And it really, puts the narrative into perspective of how critical, everything is, and how
Right.
critical this conversation is. They're bringing in, some of the biggest in the space.
Oh yeah.
And, and you mentioned early on, this is definitely positive. Right from Maxine Waters' opening statement was
Mhm.
very positive.
Yeah.
I missed this, but Legendary's bringing up this point. Why did they ask him if he lives in Hong Kong? That was the original location of FTX. I believe
Mm.
now it's in. I think it's registered in the Bahamas or Bermuda or somewhere. I forget
Mm.
exactly where they're registered. Someone probably knows. They can look that up real quick.
Yeah.
Want to also give a quick shout out to Sean Thompson. Sean's coming in from the UK somewhere. There's two Sean Thompsons in here.
And just to piggyback on what you said about this company, even though they're regulated outside the United States, I don't know if he has mentioned yet, but he goes into the fact that they have so many licenses that they had to obtain to actually protect the customers from uh, fraud, money laundering, and everything. So I think he said they had, I forgot the exact number, but it was a lot. It was a lot of licenses they had to obtain for this exchange. So
Yeah, I think there was a statement here. I forget exactly at what hour mark he says it. Let's see here. Where's
and
our
another
buddy?
thing, real quick, Jeff.
Yeah,
The thing with at Gary, every time you hear him speak, he's saying that the crypto space is the wild, wild west.
yeah.
They kind of debunked that theory in this hearing.
Hmm.
By basically breaking down how they are regulated within themselves and all the licenses that they have to obtain to protect the customers. So, and at the end, I
That's
think one of the Congress members said, "Hey, we got this memo saying how you guys aren't regulated, this, that, and the third, but you guys may be able to laugh at it because it's totally the opposite of what you guys got going on." It seemed like that they made a point of the exchanges being kind of self-regulated, in a sense. So,
and that's a huge point. I mean, to think about the decentralized space does become relatively self-regulated. I like that. The idea that these exchanges had to register for and hold a whole bunch of different licensing, to the point that Ripple and a lot of the transactions that Ripple did had to be approved by the SEC, especially when they were working with MoneyGram. So a lot of these things, Coinbase, they had to file. They launched, they're on the, they launched an IPO, so they're on the stock exchange. They had to go through all sorts of investigative research, and they hold all sorts of licensing to make it legit. And it's amazing. So to that point, and the fact that they can sit now in front of Congress and they're getting this opinion is awesome. Let me play this, because I think this is kind of one of the spots that I picked out earlier.
What form of federal charter ought to be in place around a large-scale dollar stablecoin issuer? I think the report recommends that it would be an insured depository institution. But I think one of the really critical things to discuss there is an FDIC-insured bank. Is FDIC insured because the bank is taking risk with deposits? And
and if I could, and I'm apologize to get you off, but I want to just narrow sort of specifically to the issue of, if I deposit something in a bank that is indexed to $1 and I perceive as a customer that I've eliminated the FX risk, right? But now I'm left saying, is it actually there when I want it? And now there's sufficient service. Setting aside how we get it done, broadly speaking, are you supportive of the idea that if this is going to look and feel and attract investors with the expectations that this has all the risk and liquidity profiles of $1, that we should make sure that it actually has those features?
Absolutely. So full reserve, disclosures, transparency, I think definitions around what those reserves are and the liquidity mandate on it, those are all really critical features that need to come in place. If it's full reserve, is it an FDIC insured product, or is it a statutory set of constraints around what the reserves are? So those are some of the things that I think have to be worked.
Man, that's really key, that he's bringing this up. To your point, obviously a lot of focus on a stable coin, which brings up, some of the concern over USDT. There was a lot of concern early on over that, and trying to reference, is there money behind it?
Right. Yep. And this point here, this segment that you played, this specific topic is what I believe they're going to take Tether down with. Tether, is no way they're going to allow Tether to just print up billions of dollars and say that it's backed by commercial papers. It's no way that that's going to be able to continue to go on long term. It's no way. They got to verify what's backing, what's pegged to those, what they label as a dollar 1-to-1 ratio. I don't think Tether, well, I don't know, but I see it. I find it hard to believe that Tether could survive regulations when they come.
Yeah, that's crazy. So here's Reg is saying, Gensler's no answers and Brookes' answers show the stark difference. Congress will use that against him. I like that. I like that. And then got Praxis Media Group is just saying, great stuff, guys. Appreciate both of you guys out there in the space, all the supporters. And also a big shout out to all the members of On the Chain. So if you go to onthechain.io, you can join up over there. We do kind of package all of the different articles that we read and reference after every video. And then you can also go over there and join and help support On the Chain a little bit further. You can check that out at onthechain.io. And if you're brand new here and you haven't done so already, you can also hit the subscribe button. And that's pretty easy to do, because it's easy to find. It looks red. You can hit the subscribe, hit the bell notifier, hit the thumbs up, all that good stuff that comes along with it. All right. So this was good. Then I want to kind of fast forward through some of the question here. Let me see. And Brian Brookes has a lot of statements here, doesn't he? Where's
Like I said, Brian Brookes was one of the key speakers, man. Him and the Jeremy, the CEO of Circle, they really got their point across.
All right, let's see.
Mr. Brookes, I have a question about the challenge of enforcing laws in a world of decentralization, whether it be law enforcement relating to financial crimes or SEC disclosure. How exactly do you enforce the law?
Brooks had a great response to this guy.
Against which to enforce the law?
That's a great question, though.
Yeah.
You know, how
Brooks
are you
had a
going to
great response to this guy, man. You got to see it.
All right, here we go.
How do we grapple with that challenge?
That is a great question, Mr. Torres. I really appreciate you asking it. So I'd say a couple things about it. First of all, to the extent that some of the activity we're talking about is parallel to activity that happens in the supervised system, my question is, why don't we allow it in the supervised system? Again, you've heard me say it before this morning, but you have on this panel a big stablecoin issuer who's applied for a bank charter. Doesn't look like they're going to get it. Easiest way to supervise that would be to let them in the banking system and have the OCC have authority over them. So I'd start with that. The second point is, lots of these decentralization protocols are designed to solve the exact problems that create the need for enforcement in the first place, because most enforcement in the securities and banking system is about some combination of human error, human negligence, human greed, or human bias. And the point of some of these decentralized systems is to take that out and have an open source piece of software everybody can look at and do with those things algorithmically. So as an example, I used to sit on a bank credit committee. We would decide who got credit and who didn't. And I think we had a really good system for it, but we were human beings. We might have been indulging in implicit bias. We might have made mistakes. Algorithms don't do that. So some of the need for what you're talking about goes away in a decentralized system.
Man, that's...
I mean, it's spot on, Jeff.
Yeah, I like that. That's what a great question.
He kind of turned his question around on him.
Yeah, you know what I'm thinking also as these guys are sitting here and you look at his, you know, we just kind of froze him in kind of a moment in time here. No, he's looking at Brian Brookes and he's like, man, this guy was the comptroller of the currency. And this administration was trying to put who in charge of it? Like,
right,
you know,
exactly. Yeah.
We had these amazing people that were there. Look at the
right. It's like they're totally going backwards with their nominations now, man.
Oh my God. It's
luckily she I think she dropped out, right?
Yeah, she's out.
Out. Yeah.
She's out. Yep. All right, I'm sure there was some follow-up there. Let's see.
The
there's our buddy. There's our buddy. Hang on. There we go. We got to hear what the Shermanator has to say.
Entrepreneurship and capital markets is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Crypto is many different things.
Cryptocurrency
is an incredibly volatile investment that aspires to be a currency that might displace or at least compete with the dollar. A stable coin aspires to be incredibly stable and is tied to the dollar. What they share is a culture, a vibe, a stick it to the man moniker.
Man, where's he coming up with this stuff?
I don't think he believes the words that's coming out of his mouth. I don't think he truly believes that. The way he's looking down, reading, and then looking back up, taking breaks, like, I really don't want to say it, but you know,
how about the guy behind him? How about the guy behind him? Man, this guy, this guy was holding up. I think he had like a Grateful Dead backing on his cell phone. That's kind of funny. He's talking about all right, let's play this guy. This guy is always the Shermanator has always been a piece of work. This has been like, and what's so crazy about it is that he's in his district represents a lot of big tech, you know. So you would think that he'd be like ultra, you know, concerned about the development of the technology and attracting more business to his district. Instead, the guy's like the exact opposite of wanting innovation.
Like I said, Jeff, I think him, Gary, and Elizabeth Warren, they share the same writers. They pass along the same speeches to read.
That's it. They share the same brain. So,
yeah.
All right, let's play this. Hang on.
A belief that somehow this is new and hip and a attack on the powers of society. But the fact is that the advocates of crypto represent the powers in our society. The powers in our society on Wall Street and in Washington have spent millions and are trying to make billions or trillions in the crypto world. These include Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Visa, BlackRock, Citadel, Musk, and Zuckerberg, not to mention the CEOs that are before us here today. Everyone before us today is a crypto advocate.
Man, this guy is just so antagonistic about making money and business. That's like number one on his priority. How much he hates business.
Man, it was just nonstop, Jeff. Yeah, it was a nonstop rant.
Right. it's just too much.
Oh man.
Veritas is saying, please guys, I'm a lot dumber for watching this segment.
Right. You can't help but to laugh at it, man. It's ridiculous.
Oh my God. This is legendary. That one definitely meets the definition of a face diaper. The guy behind him. What the heck is that? Oh my God. These guys are hilarious. All right, let's go. That guy, we know he's a clown. And then let's see. There we go. No. Oh. All right. How do I keep getting stuck on him? There we go.
Libya or whatever. And the probability assessment is one of the things that makes this much easier. That's why.
All right, hang on.
If I can start with Mr. Bankman-Fried first, please. From my role on the National Security Subcommittee on Financial Services, I'm committed to ensuring bad actors like terrorists and drug dealers cannot access the financial services sector for purposes contrary to U.S. interests. And while obviously I support cryptocurrency and its potential benefits in the digital payment space, one area remains particularly concerning for me: the theft of cryptocurrency and its potential use in illicit or terrorist financing. These issues are also related insofar as stolen funds may be used for nefarious purposes. I introduced my bill, H.R. 3685, the Hamas International Financing Prevention Act, in part because of the increased reporting around the use of cryptocurrency donations to support Hamas. Two questions, if you don't mind. First, what are exchanges doing today to both ensure that consumers are protected from hacking and theft, and to prevent bad actors such as Hamas and other terrorist organizations from accessing cryptocurrency markets? And in what context, too, in what context would you flag a transaction to law enforcement, and have you ever flagged transactions for law enforcement agencies?
Yeah, so I guess I'll first briefly talk about the security aspect of this, about stopping breaches to accounts, where we mandate that all users have two-factor authentication for all of their accounts. We have a very broad suite of security practices that all users can access on the site, in addition to all of the Know Your Customer policies. On the bad actor side, we conduct KYC surveillance on all users of the exchange. We do that on all deposits and withdrawals using multiple tools on the blockchain and for fiat currencies. And to address, I think, your question about law enforcement, we work cooperatively with law enforcement here in the United States and globally on.
Yeah, I think he just hits it out of the park. You can hear where his answer's going. The big question is, and they're trying to get the exchanges on this idea and this notion that they're not adhering to AML and they're not adhering to KYC, and they're going to allow terrorist organizations to use their platforms. Right. Now, terrorist organizations use banks, they use fiat, they use other tradable goods, they use banks in rogue nations, and there's all sorts of ways that terrorist groups move money around, moving it across an exchange. And I'm glad that Sam brought that up. Probably not going to happen for the most part. Obviously, there's always going to be someone. Some of the biggest banks in the world, including banks like Deutsche Bank and others, have been caught up in all sorts of fraud schemes and moving money for terrorist supporting nations and terrorist groups. So, and they have strict AML and KYC supposedly. So it happens. His answer was I think spot on.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I mentioned earlier, I put it on Twitter. I think we're looking at some of the winners that's going to be in the space. FTX, Coinbase. If you're not going by the same policies and regulations that Coinbase and FTX are doing with their customers, I don't think those exchanges are going to last. I think they got these guys up here to kind of set the example for the other exchanges to, join the ship and get on board.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think we're going to see, how many of them actually do get on board with where they need to go to compete in the space at large. I'm trying to find. So, and now I'm not finding it. I don't see. So Jacob was saying at the 3-hour 19 mark, Mr. Haas states crypto undergoes a vigorous process on whether it's a security or not. Clearly, they determined XRP isn't one in 2019. So I'm trying to find Haas say that at 3:19. Let's see. Maybe I need to back up. That's not that's Josh Gottheimer. So where is Haas?
It may be after this. I think that was around where he brought up Brian Brookes brought up XRP. If I'm not mistaken. And to piggyback on what Jacob said, yeah, they said they go through a vigorous process. They also said that they have a some kind of scale to where they rate crypto assets to determine if there's a high probability that they meet aspects of the Howey test and are securities. And they said they're not listing anything that resembles anything close to a security, based on the Howey test. And with that being said, they listed XRP. And I was seeing a document float around Twitter where I don't know if the person that wrote the article got mixed up or not, but it said in the beginning of the article, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being the highest, highly a security, they had Ethereum being a 2 and they had XRP being a 4. But later on in the article, they said with XRP having such a high rating, being the closest to a security. So they kind of, I don't know if the guy got mixed up when he was writing that or what, but on the scale, it clearly said 1 being highly a security, and Ethereum was 2, and XRP was 4, and 5 being not likely to be a security. So if XRP is a 4, if XRP is a 4, then hey, it's not likely.
Yeah, this is good. Let's see here. Jacob said it was with Mr. Kustoff and Mr. Hospart. Yeah, I was looking. I don't know where it is, but we're kind of at that point. So I was looking, trying to dig through, and I was trying to go back. Apex was saying we missed some of the best comments from the Shermanator also, but
yeah,
these guys.
The Shermanator was going so much, man. Maxine had to hit the table like your time is up.
Right,
like it's over with.
It's so funny. Oh my God. But man, outstanding. I mean, going through this stuff, I can't believe we have a ton of stuff prepared just in case, and being able to go through this was outstanding. But man, we're kind of at that moment. Really appreciate you being on here tonight. This was a great chat. I'm glad you were able to join as a guest host. Definitely want to bring you back on again. Keep contributing to the space. I'm always looking forward to seeing your tweets and your commentary, and participating in the Twitter group as well, which is great. Any last words that you have, kind of reflection on all of this?
Like I said, I think it was a positive and the right. It was a step forward, as far as the government and crypto, bridging that gap. I think it was a good educational segment for the congressmen and congresswomen to better understand the technology and to understand the exchanges, the regulation of the exchanges, and kind of debunk everything that Gary Genslered has been throwing out there. We know Gary Genslered has just been throwing stuff out in the wind, claiming that crypto is bad, it's the wild, wild west, this and that. I think this hearing kind of debunked a lot of that stuff Gary has been spitting out.
That's awesome. Maybe he'll lose his job. So
that's hey, I guarantee you, if it was me, I don't think Gary would get that treasury position because it was word around that Gary has been doing all this to try to up his chances on getting that position. I don't think the way he's handling this new innovation, I don't think they'll view him for that.
No, yeah, I kind of agree. That's kind of where he wants to go.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's that'd be devastating. So,
Yeah.
man, again, outstanding that you were here. Hang in there for a minute as we take off. But just want to remind everybody that we do stream 6 days a week, Sunday through Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tomorrow night, we will be attempting to go live and stream from a special location with some special guests taking place tomorrow. There is an XRPL meetup in Miami. So hopefully we'll be able to orchestrate that exactly the way we want it to come off. Not 100% sure, but we will be there tomorrow night. And yeah, it'll be great actually getting a chance to meet up with Matt Hamilton as well. So anyhow, Jay, it was great having you on. Looking forward to having you on the next one here with us. And that's all I've got. But again, like I said, we'll try to be back on again tomorrow. But Jay, hang in there as we take this thing out.
All right. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. And where's that outro? There we go. Out.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.